Hi, this is Matt, and you're listening to Bluegrass Jam Along, the podcast for anyone and everyone who loves bluegrass. Hey everybody, welcome back. This is your Bluegrass Briefing for Monday, 26th of June, 2023. It is hot in London as I record this. It's 30 degrees, and London 30 degrees is hot because we don't do aircon and it gets sticky and it is horrible. And I'm sat in a very small, hot, sweaty room. So I'm going to get on and tell you what the news is this week. And first up, just general podcast news. New website is up and running, as I've mentioned before. That's going really well. Do go and check it out at bluegrassjamalong.com if you haven't. And a couple of things coming up. On Wednesday, this week's episode is an interview, and it's a really, really special one for me. It is with Gabe Witcher of Punch Brothers. I say of Punch Brothers, ex of Punch Brothers, as of a few days ago. Gabe really kindly agreed to join me and have a chat about him leaving the band, but also, more importantly, sort of celebrate his time in the band and talk about how Punch came together, what it's meant to him, like what that journey was like, how it was doing the final gigs, what's coming up next. It was just such a joyous chat. He's a great guest, and I'm very much looking forward to sharing that with you all. And that'll be out on Wednesday. And I'm in the process of putting together a tribute episode to Clarence White, as this year is the 50th year since Clarence passed, and I wanted to do something to celebrate his playing and his influence. And I have already spoken to David Greer, I've spoke to Russ Barenberg, and I've got a few more things to record over the next couple of weeks, and that's coming out mid-July. But yeah, just give you a heads up about that. That's going to be really exciting too. Looking forward to that one. And a few more bits in the pipeline. I've got another 2 interviews confirmed already over the next few weeks from people who've got new records out. And so there's some cool stuff coming, and I will keep you up to date with that as it goes. But yes, that is it. I'm going to now move on to Church Street news and announcements. And 2 bits in Church Street news this week. First bit is Alison Brown has an upcoming banjo course on Artist Works. They're collecting together such a cool roster of people for the bluegrass stuff at Artist Works. It's great. You've got so many options of people to learn from. And now that means banjo, you've got Tony Trishka, you've got Noam Bacalny, and you've got Alison as well. And so some great choices there. 3 superb players. So that'll be interesting to see. And the other thing, I got in an email I'm on Michael Dave's mailing list. He sends out news and various bits and pieces, like I'm sure some of you are as well. And he sent something round this week. There's a venue in New York called Rockwood Music Hall, and it is in danger of closing due to financial pressures. It's really struggling, and so a few artists are putting on some benefit gigs to try and raise some money, but also raise awareness. Rockwood has, helped launch the career of thousands of up-and-coming artists. It's, a staple part of New York's music scene. And means a lot to a lot of people. And Michael says of the show that him and Chris Thiele are doing, it's not just any show, it's a benefit for the venue that's done the most to nurture our duo. So Michael and Chris Thiele are playing at 8 p.m. on July 1st. So that's this weekend. And there's a host of other stuff as well. Other acts, other stuff going on as well. So do go and check that out. I'll put a link in the show notes. There's also more information at preserverockwood.com. You can go there, you can contribute to the fund. There's a GoFundMe set up. You can go and contribute something. If you're able to, you can go to one of the gigs. There's lists there and stuff. And there's also details of how you can share the campaign on social media, and there's assets and things you can use. So I'll put a link to that in the show notes, but you can see that at preserverockwood.com. And that Chris Thiele, Michael Dave's album, it's one of my favourites. I love it. And I've stuck a track off that in the Grass is Mostly New playlist. Their version of If I Should Wander Back Tonight, which I love it. It's so good. And yeah, Rockwood Music Hall is one of the reasons that record exists, I think. So check that out, go and support it, spread the word, and do what you can to help. That is it for Church Street News. So, moving on to The Grass is New. And the first thing is a single called Hard Aport by Shannon Slaughter. Another track from Riding Through the Country record. And this one features Adam Steffi on mandolin, Sean Lane on fiddle, and it's a story of a merchant skipper who shuns piloting a slave ship because he believes it's immoral. And it's like, I love a good story song. So check that out. That is also in the Grass is Mostly New playlist. And 2 albums I've been really looking forward to out this week. The first one, Dan Tyminski's God-Fearing Heathen record. And I don't know if you remember, I interviewed Dan last summer about this record, and he was talking about how excited he was for this to come out, and that he thought it was as good as anything he'd done. And Dan's been on some pretty incredible records. And so that's finally out, and I've started listening to that, and that is great. I've stuck some stuff in the playlist for that as well. So go and check out the Dan Tyminski record. It's got members of East Nash Grass in his band as well. And actually, after chatting to Dan, I ended up interviewing Harry Clark, who plays mandolin in East Nash Grass, and on Dan's record and in Dan's band as well. So you can go listen to that too if you're interested. So there's that. There's also an album called Quiet Flame by singer-songwriter Canty. And I've heard some bits. There's been a couple of singles out, and I've really been enjoying that. It's a really interesting bunch of musicians on it too. The core band is Sarah Jarosz, Paul Coa, and Brittany Haas, and it's produced by Chris Eldridge. Those are some of my favourite musicians. And what I've heard of this record so far is great. It is out now, the album. I haven't had a chance to listen to the whole thing yet, but I will be putting that on this week and enjoying it very much, I'm sure. So check that out. I'll put links in the show notes to Caitlin's stuff. But yeah, the record's called Quiet Flame. Go and find it and have a listen. I think it's going to be something quite special. And that brings us to the section called Scroll On Buddy, which is stuff that I've spotted on social media. And I guess this is a Punch Brothers thing again. I woke up the other morning, 6:30, and did my usual looking at stuff on my phone, and saw on Instagram that actually Punch Brothers were live streaming on Instagram the final set at Telluride, the night show at the Opera House. And that was Gabe's last ever set. And I knew it was happening, and I knew it was going to be Gabe's last set with the band, but I hadn't realised I'd get to watch a bit of it. So I sat and had a cup of coffee, had my breakfast, and watched a little bit of Gabe's final set, which was just a beautiful thing to get to feel like a tiny little part of. But yeah, so sort of looping back to what I said at the top, there's an interview with Gabe coming on Wednesday, so do listen to that, because there's some really cool stuff about how Punch got together and how some of the stuff was recorded, as well as his reasons for moving on and what comes next. And yeah, that was just a wonderful conversation to get to be part of. And that sort of leads into what's been in my ears this week, which is quite a bit of Punch. It's made me listen back and enjoy some of those bits and pulls. And I talked to Gabe in the interview about a track called Missy, which is on Antifogmatic, which is the record that came after Punch and before Who's Feeling Young Now. And there's a track on that called Missy, and the fiddle solo on Missy is one of my favourite bits of recorded fiddle of probably ever. And just it's a perfect example of an instrumental break that takes the energy of the song and takes it somewhere new. I'll stick it in the playlist. Go and listen if you don't know Missy. It's beautiful. And listen to Gabe chatting about recording that, because that's fascinating too. And that is it. What will be in my ears this week will be the Dan Tyminski record and the Caitlin Canty record. Get in touch. Let me know what you're listening to. Give me some tips. Tell me what I've missed. Tell me what I should have in my ears that I don't. That's also really good. I love getting some recommendations. Just Matt at bluegrassjamalong.com, or hunt me down on Instagram or Facebook. There's links in the show notes to all of those things. That is it. Look out for the Gabe interview on Wednesday. I will see you next week with more of this, and either another interview or some tunes, depending on the timings. And that is it. Have a great week and happy picking. Bluegrass Jam Along is proud to be sponsored by Collings Guitars and Mandolins, making some of the finest guitars and mandolins in the world since the 1970s. Visit collingsguitars.com and find out why.